Coming to you live from Cultura Media House. Presented to you by 786 Sports. It's El Big League Show. Caught of the bullpen today, we have Nick Martínez. And as always, here's Adrian Lorenzo and Danny Enriquez.
Welcome to El Big League Show. We are on the doorstep of the World Series, talking 2025 playoff baseball. As always, I'm here with Adrian Lorenzo. But Adrian, we're going to talk 2025 playoffs. We've got someone with some experience in that department here with us today.
More than a little, yeah. I keep saying that I get excited with every episode that we shoot, but this one I'm especially excited for because we have a very special guest today in Nick Martínez. He's not only an exceptional baseball player, human being, father, but a very close friend, and I just like talking baseball with you, man. So
yeah, thanks, brother.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course, man. I've been really, really excited about this one, but especially because we're talking about postseason baseball, and you were just playing postseason baseball against one of the teams we'll be talking about today with the Dodgers. But Danny and I, we spent a lot of time talking about how teams have to build your roster for 162, but then once you're fortunate enough to get in and push into the postseason, the game shifts a little bit, or the style of play shifts a little bit, or the way that you win baseball games, different things are prioritized, and it's almost a different style of play in the postseason. Do you agree with that? Do you think that there are two different kinds of games?
Yeah, I think throughout the course of a season, there's so many games, the ups and downs of games. You tend to look at a more in-depth view of what a player can do, and you start to look at peripherals. Maybe lean on those peripherals a little bit more because you have the course of the season for the law of averages to even out, right? And then once you get into the playoffs, it's about winning that game and helping your team, in whatever capacity, win that game, win that pitch even. And so you look less into the peripherals or the course of the season to help you win, and wait for things to even out. And you do what you can to win this ball game, whether it be small ball, a reliever going multiple innings. You're just trying to, every out matters, and however you can get those outs, you're going to do it to help your team advance. And so I would say, there's a difference in how you set up your roster and how you manage the game. And there's a mentality switch too from the player's perspective.
And I thought what's interesting too, congratulations, first of all, for being part of that Reds push into the postseason. And what I was saying earlier before we got on is that really the Reds postseason really started before the postseason, right? Because those games in September, it comes down to like your scoreboard watching down to the very last game just to try to get into the postseason. So you're really playing a version of the postseason in the last few weeks leading up to the playoffs. Like that was true this year in particularly.
Right.
Does that impact you when you get into the postseason? Is there a certain level of fatigue that causes like getting into the postseason?
I would think it impacts you in a better way, right? Because you're already in that mindset. And teams that we've seen it with a bunch of different teams that play in that wild card round. If they get hot in that wild card round, they make a deep run. We were playing playoff games that whole month of September, and every game mattered, and we didn't have any wiggle room, to lose. Every pitch, every game was important to us, and so I personally, it helps you. You want that momentum, and it didn't work out for us this year, but you want that mindset, and you can call it what it is. Maybe we were burnt out, but I didn't feel that way. I felt like we had a pretty good mindset and energy going into it, and then once you get in, there's that next level. The excitement of being in the playoffs can really help a team, propel into the next round.
Something here from fans is like playoff experience. You are someone who has, throughout your career, not only here in America, but just the international stage, playing at the biggest stages. Do you feel you're a different pitcher now at the postseason level, having gone through that, or is it just baseball?
Yeah. We talked a little bit, before we got started here about, my timing of getting to, Major League postseason. And my first playoff experience of my life was in the NPB, and I pitched in the first round of the playoffs. My first year, it was an elimination game and of that first round, and I think that's definitely helped me prepare, at least mentally, right? Of the feeling that you get in pitching those extra, let alone an elimination game, right? And so, that's definitely helped me. And I think with each year of reaching the postseason, you grow and mature, and you begin to know what it takes to play. Not only the first round of the playoffs, but every round after that. And I've yet to reach the World Series, and I imagine that's a whole different level in itself. But it's not always going to go well. Like my postseason run this year, I didn't have a good game, but I was in a good place mentally and physically, where it's easier to swallow that, and that I think will propel me and help me for my next playoff appearance. And so it's also a message that I was sending to our young guys that didn't have the experience in the playoffs, and our young guys played tremendous in the playoffs. Spence had a great playoff run. Sal Stewart, getting called up September, making an immediate impact in the playoffs. Those guys, and then also Chase Burns, just getting drafted last year, and he threw 2 innings. Doesn't matter what the score is in the playoffs. Every inning matters. That you're going to feel that pressure, and those guys, they showed up. And when I was telling these guys going into the playoffs is, getting this feeling, understanding what it takes to get to the playoffs, right? Because we essentially grinded.
Yes, you did.
Fought tooth and nail to get into the playoffs. You now know what it takes to get into the playoffs, and then those guys specifically know what it takes to win at the playoffs, and that helps your career tremendously, right? And it's also important to note that obviously everyone wants to do well in the playoffs, and it's not always the case. Someone's gonna do bad, right? Win or lose. So it's just understanding, regardless of the outcome, you're going to understand what it takes to compete at this new level of baseball. And that can help your career. It can help your mind. Like the game should, and it will slow down for these guys for the rest of their careers. They're going to know, they just played a high level of baseball. The regular season, less panic starts to set in. Okay, there's a long season. I know what I'm playing for. I know what I got to do to get my body and my mind ready to play in these playoff games.
So you saying that, I think so much of what you said is true. And we've talked about it a lot here before, that I see a lot of the really successful teams that make the push all the way in like they're kind of loaded with experienced guys. It feels like experience ends up carrying a lot of weight. And I think you see it with the Dodgers right now, for example, but it carries a lot of weight, especially in this context when the lights get the brightest, which they are at this stage. And so I'm hearing you talk about mentioned the NPB playoff experience, right? And like that must have been, was that as heightened as I think it is? Like, cause I know how Japan cares about baseball. So
right. Yeah. I mean, there's not gonna, maybe it's not the same amount of pressure that comes with a major league postseason game or postseason run. But for me at the time, that was the highest level of baseball I've played. So for me personally, that was a very big deal, right? I'm on this team that they brought me over to rely on me to help carry this team as one of its starters into the playoffs and help them make a big run. So I definitely felt the pressure, let alone now, we're down 1 game in a best of 3 series in the first round. And I have game 2 down, I have to win this game so that we can continue playing. And I feel like I responded well. We ended up winning that game. So it's just when you have experienced guys like the Dodgers, you know what you're going to get, and you're about to be tested, right? And you're going to be tested in a big way. You want to have guys that are going to respond well, good or bad, and it doesn't define. We can talk about last night's game, in particular with Eugenio Suarez makes an error that leads to a couple runs in that inning. in that same inning, they panned right in on him in his face, and he had no emotion. Like, all right, I messed up. I gotta move forward. It's not gonna define me.
Right.
I gotta worry about the next play. That's what the playoffs are. It's winning the next pitch.
Right.
And then in that inning, he saves 2 runs. He makes a diving catch.
Yep. Great play.
An amazing play. The ball was hit about 115 off of Vladdy's bat, and he makes a diving play to end the inning. Limits the damage. Right. Limits the damage. Keeps the team in the ball game. This is essentially what you're doing. And you want guys with experience that how they're going to respond, good or bad. And that was a prime example of that right there.
I bring up the NPB playoff experience because I'm going to go back to, I think it was 2022, a postseason run with the Padres. And I happened to be there to watch you pitch in that game. And you, in a series where you guys beat the Dodgers. So like you faced the Dodgers in playoff experience before. And in those Dodgers Padres series, man, like I can't imagine intense. Like San Diego goes nuts. Yeah. I can't imagine an environment that's crazier, than that particular environment. And you came into that game, I think, in a big seventh inning moment and had a good shutdown inning right when the game was close and you needed to. And it's funny because I was watching you in the warm up in the bullpen before then, and you seem to have developed this like really strong like visualization process in addition to all the pacing you do mid game, which I think a lot of your teammates will probably smile when they hear this about the pacing. But what is it about your kind of rituals before you go into the game that in that particular instance, I saw a direct translation. I was like, okay, this guy's locked in going into this ball game. And in that particular instance, you got a really good result. But I think that there's like that prep to go into the game can be, I don't know, decisive in terms of how you actually perform when you're in the game. And it feels like those playoff experiences you got before that point kind of built up to a moment like that where you cashed in.
Yeah. I mean, a lot goes into that, right? All that pacing and visualization is really rechanneling those nerves, right? I mean, you're going to be nervous. You want to be nervous. You're pitching in playoff games and essentially the biggest games of your career up to that point. And you want to find a way to rechannel those nerves into what you want to happen. I think also getting to know your teammates, what kind of example you set and how you represent yourself, right? Like I knew personally, my guys know how hard I work, how hard I prepare. And so they know I'm giving it everything I got. I'm competing with everything I have physically and mentally to help us succeed. And they know me as well as I know me. And so it's like it's almost freeing that, like, regardless of how it doesn't define who I am. They know that I'm a competitor. They know I'm working my ass off. And that my teammates knowing that about me gives me the freedom and it almost takes that weight off. It's like, dude, I'm going to go out there and compete regardless of the outcome. They know how bad I want to win and how much I want to succeed. They want me to succeed and vice versa, right? And so a lot of that goes into, and that's what you have spring training, the regular season. Like, what are you doing to show your guys that you want to win? And I think when you understand that, the big moments don't define you because you want it just as bad as your teammates do, and vice versa. And so that helps kind of lift a lot of that weight off your shoulders. It's kind of more of like a philosophical thing, but I've found that if I can come to terms with that, I'm going to play as aggressively and as freely as I want, and just go balls to the wall, and whatever happens. Like my last playoff, this year, not a great playoff outing, but they knew where my intentions were. It just didn't go my way. It's not always going to go my way, but they know who I am as a person, as a teammate, and as a competitor. And so I focus more on that than you do on the outcomes.
Sure.
After the Blue Jays eliminated the Yankees, you had three of the best position players of all time, right? With Ortiz, Jeter, A-Rod. And they were talking about, home runs, regular season, obviously the king. Playoff contact becomes more important, and that's an underrated thing. From a pitching standpoint, do you buy that there's a change once you get to the playoffs versus a contact-oriented team like Toronto versus a home run team?
Yeah. Again, going back to it's kind of you play differently in the regular. Not that you play differently. I mean, essentially you do a little bit, right? Like you may be chasing more swings and misses for many different reasons, right? It's going to give you the most success, and you want that in the playoffs too. It's going to be harder to strike guys out in the playoffs because they're doing whatever they can to get on base. They don't care about what the projections are telling them. They're going to hit 30 home runs and get to 100 RBIs. They're doing whatever it takes to win. So they're not going to want to strike out as much. So that's where you want to create as much weak contact as you can, and let your defense play behind you. And if you're getting strikeouts, even better, right? Because you can't score if you're getting struck out. So there is a difference in that. I just think as the playoffs move forward, the talent gets better and the competition gets better. And so you're going to have less swing, less strikeouts. You're going to get more weak contact, and it's really just, every out matters. So you just, however you can get those outs, you're going to take them. If it's 27 rocket outs, all right. If they didn't score, it's fine.
So getting into the postseason, like we can close the book on that, on getting into it, because I watched what went right for the Reds this year that you guys were able to close the gap, like at the end there. Like, what were the things going in your favor? Because there were moments where you were in a strong position, and then it throttled back, and then you were able to make that push right when it mattered. What were the things that were going right for you guys this year for that to be able to be the case?
I mean, ultimately, I think we just always believe that we can do it, first and foremost. But we were pretty relentless in who we are, and sure, we had times where we lost that identity, but we knew how to get back to it. From that can start with Tito as managing and not panicking when the waters got murky.
He's got some experience.
He's got experience. Yeah, the guy's a winner. So it starts with him, and it trickles down to the everyday players that are posting all the time and playing through little knick-knack injuries and doing what it takes to get on the field and help the team win. It takes a lot, and I think throughout the season we just kept going back to our identity and keep playing that relentless style of baseball. We didn't have the big names, the superstar power that teams like the Dodgers or the Phillies have or the Mets have. We played scrappy baseball, and when it matters most, that's the identity we fell back on, and we were able to close that gap and essentially get through that first round of the playoffs, or get to the first round. Yeah, I was watching that series very closely right at the end there, and it really came down to the last day of the season. And I watched that celebration, and that's got to feel like sometimes people wonder, like, they're going crazy in these celebrations for like entering the postseason. But what you're talking about is it's such a grind to get to that point that it must be such a release of like we're going to celebrate like this is Game 7 of the World Series. It's hard to win the big leagues. Yeah, it's hard to win the big leagues. Hard to get in the playoffs, man. You should celebrate every chance you get, man. It's a lot of fun popping champagne bottles. There's some good clips of you celebrating. Celebrating, man. Pretty good. You look, we didn't get to advance. That was our only time to do it, and we had a good time doing it. So I think celebrate the small victories. It helps you take away from the dog days of the summer, the grind of the season.
Routine obviously very important, but when you get to the postseason, just like in between the games, you talked about like the mindset, like while you're playing, like the in between part. Does that change, or is that still kind of as close to the regular season as possible?
I would say that part stays. Obviously, there's more at stake, but you want to be as consistent as possible and do what helps you get your mind right for the postseason. I wouldn't say too much changes. You definitely don't want to be trying stuff out, right before the playoffs start. You don't know how you're going to react to it or whatnot. So the routine stays the same. It's more about calming the nerves, right? Throughout the season, the excitement of the season, maybe opening day, that excitement of you kind of trying to calm the nerves down. As the season goes on, it gets to get a little dull, a little boring. You got to find ways to pump yourself up, and then obviously for the playoffs, the nerves are at their highest. So you try to find ways to redirect, rechannel those nerves into something that you can handle. Take it one pitch at a time.
So you do something. I think you're unique in this game. There's maybe a handful of other guys that bounce between starter and relieving roles. And I've tried to talk about on the show how that's like why walking through the mechanics of why that's more difficult than I think people imagine. So we talked about it with Kershaw not making the roster in the first round of the playoffs. It was a small 3-game series, so he might not get to start. And it's not as easy as just plugging him into a relief role if he's not in that rhythm, if he's not in a rhythm of getting hot. If he's in every 5 days, every 6 days pitching, that's a whole different warm up or between start routine than be ready every day to go in. Right. And you don't know when you're going to have to get hot.
Be ready every day.
Right. But you have found a rhythm to seemingly be able to go in and start a midweek game or start, in 1 week. And also if you got to come in and you usually don't come in low leverage situations either. So you're usually in there to provide length in leverage situations. Right. So what, if there are other like younger guys like watching this that are trying to emulate, give their own manager, give their own teams that kind of versatility and flexibility, what are things that stand out to you about why you're able to pull that off?
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing for that is the communication that I have with the skipper and the pitching coach, right? As players, I feel like, we're soldiers, right? And on this team, and we're trying to accomplish this goal. If you can give me direction, I'm going to do what I can to accomplish that goal, whatever it be, for that game, for the season, for that week, 2 weeks. You need me as a starter these 2 weeks. Okay, tell me, give me some time. I'll this go round, we're going to need you as a starter. And then it looks like we'll bump you to the bullpen. Okay, I can prepare myself physically and mentally. Probably the biggest thing, I can prepare myself mentally to make that switch, and then do what I got to do physically to be ready for that switch, and then be ready to pitch every single day. I use a tool, a driveline pulse tool, that allows me to manage my workload in between outings, in between starts, so that I can use, the most important bullets in the game and not waste any bullets playing catch or in my bullpen. And that helps on the physical part of it, where I've become so efficient in my catch play in the game or in practice that I can save those game throws. I can use those throws that I didn't waste in practice, can use them in the game for 1 inning, 2 innings, whatever you may need. And then having that data inputted and saved and keeping track of it, now I know what I have to do the next day to either stay ready for competition or use that as a day as recovery. Okay, I'm going to go less throws today so that I can recover for the next time they need me on the mound. And so that those two things are the biggest. And then it's a different mindset, right? Where, you're a dog in the bullpen. You got to be ready to pitch every day. You got to be ready to compete. That's a mindset thing. And as a starter, you have that mindset, but you have days to be ready for it. I've essentially been doing this my whole career, where I've been a starter, I've been a reliever, I've done both in the season, and that's helped tremendously. I wasn't always great at it on the mental side, being able to deal with it. But over the years, I've learned, okay, how to hold that mindset as a reliever and take it as a starter. Frankly, I'm not an ace. I have spurts where I can pitch like it, but I'm not the guy I'm not the number one that teams build around. I'm more of a back end starter. That realization is like, okay, well, if I'm anywhere from 3, 4, 5 starter, those aren't really the guys that you send out no matter what. Like, as soon as there's a sign of trouble, if we're trying to win that game, they're going to call a reliever to help me out help the team, keep the lead. Right. All right. Well, if that's just the reality of the situation for me, well, I'm going to go balls to the wall for however long I can. And if that's 5 innings, is that 4 innings? If that's 7 innings, 9 innings, then great, whatever it is. But I'm going balls to the wall until the manager takes the ball away from me. And that mindset has helped me be really efficient, aggressive in the zone, and challenge guys. And that gives me the best chance to succeed and make it into the deeper part of the game as a starter. And essentially I'm keeping that same mentality as a reliever. And then to wrap it all together, that's the mentality you have to have in the playoffs, because it doesn't matter unless you're Scooball, literally the best pitcher in the game. As soon as there's a sign of trouble, we're not going to risk you. Hey, we want you to go 7 innings or to have a quality start. We need to win this game. I don't care if you're the best pitcher on earth. We got to win this game. So you go balls to the wall until I take the ball away from you. And so I try to have that mentality essentially the whole season.
I think that comes across. And one thing I think that has allowed you to have let's say the more recent success that you've had is like you really establish count leverage early. I feel like you understand the importance of, okay, if I'm not getting a first pitch strike, I got to get the second pitch strike. Right. So really like the importance of putting yourself into good counts And I really, that to me lines up with what you're saying, to make sure that you're attacking and you're attacking in the zone early.
Right.
And you really do a good job of limiting your walks and limiting the free passes and things like that. And when it's going well for you, it's like you're keeping those things in check. And I feel like that's really lining up. And I think that especially lined up this year where you took a no like into the ninth. Right. Like, can you walk us through a little bit of like what went right that game? Because I was watching every, as soon as you get the alert of what's happening, you lock in a different way. Can you walk us through a little bit? We'll circle back to the postseason, but I can't not talk about this.
Right. Everything was going right that game, right? Until it wasn't technically because I lost it in the ninth. But I'm attacking the zone. I'm challenging guys early and often in the zone, and I'm changing speeds, right? I'm recognizing swings and recognizing approaches and pitching off of that. And essentially, to be successful at this level, you got to command your fastball and change speeds, right? With pitchers, we have to disrupt their timing. And that night I was able to do all of it, right? It just kind of synced up and it worked out. And we had a great game plan. I mean, a lot goes into it, but essentially the two most important things was I was attacking the zone with all my pitches essentially, but especially my fastball. And I was changing speeds with my off speed and commanding those as well. And so, as a pitcher, besides our objective of disrupting the hitter's timing, our job is to get as much information from the hitter, trying to figure out what he's trying to do so that I can pitch accordingly, right? The best way to do that is to throw strikes. I'm not going to get any information from that hitter if I'm throwing balls. They're just going to be taken. They're just going to be standing there. Now I'm not helping myself if I'm throwing balls. If I'm throwing strikes, regardless of the outcome, we can get to the outcome in the next step. Right. If I'm throwing strikes, I'm gonna be getting information from that hitter, what his plan is that day or how he's feeling that day. He can be a really good fastball hitter. You don't know how he slept the night before. You don't know if he's dealing with something mentally, if his timing is off, right? And I throw him a fastball and he's late on it. Okay, now I know where he's at, right? Or if he's a fastball hitter and I throw an off speed and he looks really bad on it, I know I can keep going to that well for success, right? So the best way to get information from the hitters is to attack the zone and force swings, right? How can I get you in swing mode, right, to now make my next move, and that allows me to be as flexible and as an open book as possible. It allows me to have different ways to attack you, right? I may be, if you look at Snell's performance against us in the playoffs, right? He absolutely dominated. He's been dominating all playoffs. But you look at what he does extremely well. He throws his fastball to the top of the zone. His best is when he's arm side fastball, top of the zone. But he can, command it to both sides of the plate. And you talk about his breaking ball, his curveball, and his sliders. Those are his three best pitches, right? Well, against us, he went fastball changeup. So he was reading us. He saw that he likes his changeup. He was commanding his changeup. He saw that we were not recognizing, we were not making that adjustment. So he kept going with that combination, the fastball, and then maybe just dumping over some curveballs, to kind of reset them to get them off the changeup or whatever. But he dominated us on what essentially was, what's typically known as his fourth best pitch, right, because he was able to recognize what the plan was against him, and he rolled with it
in real time. So he's making the adjustments based on the feedback that the hitter's giving him. It's interesting. I've been in baseball for a long time. I've never quite heard it elaborated like that, and that makes so much sense, because it's a lot of times you think that preparation is only the stuff you do before the game, but what you're talking about is like you're making pitch to pitch adjustments based on pitch to pitch feedback that you're getting.
Right.
But the most important thing you said there, and I think to like young pitchers like watching, it's like without the strike, you're not going to get any of that information. You're going to get into a bad count.
Right. So and then now you're forced to throw one over the plate when they're ready for it. Right. The Dodgers are the best at it.
Right.
The best at it. They don't swing at balls. They swing at strikes. So if you're not attacking the zone, you're going to be forced to throw it over the heart of the plate against that lineup. Good luck.
Yeah.
There'd be some hard hit balls.
Right. It's what happened in this Milwaukee series effectively. Like their swing decisions in this, I think they had like some crazy low chase rate to just bully Milwaukee
forcing the pitcher to the heart of the plate, but
in good counts for the hitters.
Right.
So it's not just like you said, like because they were not attacking early and aggressive in the zone, they're not getting into that 0-1 count. It's a 1-0 count, and now the percentages flip in the direction of the hitters. And if you have good hitters, that capitalize and good advantage counts, then it just kind of gets snowballs and it gets worse.
You know,
and worse.
it's 4 runs in the second. You're going, what the heck happened? You know, and so that's and that's a challenge, right? Like you're facing the Dodgers. You're looking at that. You're doing your scouting report, and you're going, fuck. These guys are gonna go. You know, you have to really be stubborn. Like I have to challenge these guys. I cannot mess around and get them to chase early because they just won't.
I want to ask you about that because there's the movie Catch You If I Can with Leonardo DiCaprio. You remember that movie?
Yeah.
So there's a line in there where it's Tom Hanks and DiCaprio, and he says, well, the Yankees always win because people are staring at the pinstripes. And then Tom Hanks is like, no, they have Mickey Mantle. They just have better players. Nothing to do with that. Is there anything to, maybe for like a younger player, not a veteran like yourself, but like that aura where it's like you got to get over not just the fact that you got to deal with these guys as baseball players, but the outside stuff? Is that a real thing?
Yeah, I'd be lying if I said it wasn't, right? Like you know, going to series, you're going, shit, we're playing the Dodgers. Like you look at this lineup, but you have to. That's the mind, you know, working against you, right? That you don't pay any attention. You work at not paying attention to that and going back to like I gotta be aggressive. I gotta challenge him, you know. And that's true for hitters too, right? They're going up, you know. I think the Mariners did it best, right? Like they beat Skubal 3 times this year. Like I was watching that game as a fan, going in his second playoff outing against. I go, there's no way they beat him again. Like this is the best pitcher in the world, right? They have to know that. They have to know going into this game, like, damn. Like subconsciously, they have to be like, fuck, what are the chances we beat this guy? Like that little voice in your head going, damn, we got him again. Or do they let the other voice, you know, win over their minds and be like, no, we can freaking do it. Like we can win this. Like we let's stay to who we are. Let's play our game. Let's grind them out. And if it's 1 run, we're gonna do our best to keep it, you know, 1-0. Right? We're gonna just keep fighting. So I'd be lying to say no. If you don't look at the lineup or look at who's pitching and going, crap, I got this guy today, then yeah, that happens for sure. But I think that's also what makes this great is that we're aware of it and we go, fuck it, man, I'm going after you anyways, you know?
Yeah. And it's funny because in those games that Skubal lost, he pitched his ass off in those games too.
He pitched great, but
you're still able to beat him. So the game still has to be played before even like the pregame, let's call it
mind games.
The mind games, right?
For sure.
So the game still has to be played. So you've now have some like pretty extensive experience playing against the Dodgers in particular, and we've talked about, you know, some of the reasons why they're successful, especially on the offensive side. What from what you've seen on the pitching side has made them successful in this postseason run? So like, you know, we can get into the individual starters like we talked about with Snell, but what's your overall takeaway from what you saw from them on the pitching side? Yeah,
well, obviously you look at the lineup and that's a very strong lineup, regardless of who's hot and cold. All 9 of them, even 10, some of the guys coming off the bench, for sure, you know, can ignite like instantly, right? They have that ability, the guys on that roster. It's funny how you look at last year when they won, you know, they relied heavily on their bullpen. They had a lot of bullpen games and they strategically used their bullpen to win the World Series. And they did a fantastic job managing that. And this year it's their starters carrying them from the pitching standpoint, and they're pitching their asses off, right? And now you see teams this year trying to replicate what the Dodgers did last year, and it's not working out for them. So it can be done, but it's obviously very hard, and odds are against you, right? Because the relievers, they'll burn out. They're not ready for that kind of workload and with that type of stress for, you know, that many games in a row. The Dodgers were able to do it last year, but this year their starters are all going 6-7 innings. To do that in the playoffs is
insane.
It's
crazy.
It's great, right? Like your starter goes 6-7 innings. Every pitch matters. Like you're trying to win every single pitch. Go balls to the wall every single pitch. If you can give us 4 or 5 innings and you're keeping us in the game, that's great, man.
Right.
Like the Dogs will come in and close this down. You know, you play 2 games, sometimes 3, and you get a day off for the relievers to get some rest. But for the fact that their starters are going 7 innings pretty much almost every time they do it.
And dominant innings too. They're not just like
this feels like a historic 9, 10 punch outs.
When you think about dominant, historic, like postseason starting pitcher performances, like this is up there with some of the best in history. Like this,
growing up, you would see like you would see it from, one, maybe two guys, right?
Yeah, like the Schilling Johnson year was like, that was like an outlier where like two horses were performing.
Right.
You
look at Pettit and Clemens. It was like, there's the two horses. You're going to do whatever you can to get those. They're going to pitch on short rest because those guys are going to be competing their ass off for 7, 8 innings. Pedro going 8 innings almost every time, So and the Dodgers looks like it's like every starter they throw out there is going 7 innings. That's going to help a team tremendously.
One of the guys that is in this rotation that we're talking about, we talked about Snell, we can talk about Glass now. Obviously, Ohtani will have his own little segment like he always does because it's just the unicorn in our game. Right. And we're going to get to that. But you told me before this series that you faced off with Yamamoto quite a bit in Japan before, obviously, have had some face-offs here. What do you remember about his time in Japan? And are you surprised to see what you're seeing now?
I'm not surprised to see what I'm seeing now. I've always thought he's going to be a great pitcher here. He does everything great. Like he commands all of his pitches. He's deceptive in his mechanics. He does he does javelin throws.
I see that.
To work on his mechanics, and essentially javelin throwers have the perfect mechanics.
Really,
for an overhead athlete, right? Pitchers are overhead athletes. Javelin thrower, they're throwing a spear with 70 yards, right? You have to have perfect throwing mechanics to throw the javelin, and he recognized that and implemented it into his own, and so he's able to have do the javelin throws to protect his arm and use that for his mechanics, right? On the mound it looks like he's mimicking a javelin throw.
Yeah, I've seen the overlay of him doing both next to each other, and it's the same motion.
Very explosive too, right?
Yeah. The javelin's mechanics are the best, hands down, for throwing, right? And he's doing that on the mound. It's so repeatable. Everything's coming out of the same window, and he throws 7 different pitches.
Right.
So good. How are you going to prepare for that?
With plus command of all of them.
Right. He commands them all because his mechanics are essentially perfect.
Truly any pitch, any count.
Truly any pitch, any count, coming out of the same window, moving in different directions. Like that, for me, that's incredibly hard to prepare for, right? Like he gets got, but it's showing, how special he is as a pitcher, last year and this year. And this year he's had probably his biggest workload. He was hurt a little bit last year.
Yep.
This year, All-Star. Was he an All-Star this year?
Yes, he was.
Yeah. So, he's very reason why they gave him, $300-something million, right?
Yeah,
they saw the same potential, and it's paying off now in the playoffs.
It's interesting because the workload has been higher, but he's been arguably at his strongest. He was also strong to get to the All-Star game, so he had a good first half too, but like seemingly getting stronger into this postseason.
Right.
That last start was he made a lot of guys look really bad.
Yeah.
A lot of swings.
He's got really, really good stuff.
And not the most imposing like physique either.
No, he's a little guy. That's what going back to, the javelin throws, like he's perfected that motion, that it's more about technique to be able to. He's a little guy. He's like 5'9", maybe 100-something pounds, 175 maybe. I don't know. And he throws 98, and he can make the ball go up, down, side, whatever he wants with it. And that's rare.
Yeah,
it's rare.
He's one of my favorite pitchers to watch over the course of the start because
I like him a lot, yeah.
I love, and you do this a lot really well, where you are truly confident throwing any of your pitches in any count, depending on what the situation dictates or necessitates. I can't overstate how much that's not the case for the majority of pitchers, even at the major league level. Like sometimes you just get more comfortable. You get into almost like a 2-pitch, sometimes even like a 1-pitch when you're in trouble. Like, no, I got to go to this in this situation. But to have that level, because true pitchability is, we've talked about this on the show before, like what is true pitchability? And I think it's that. I think it's ability to throw any pitch in any count based on whatever the situation dictates. And I feel like he really has that. He's really fun to watch in that dynamic. So he's one of like this 4-headed monster that they have at the starting rotation.
Yeah, because you got the other guys who are just going to come at you with, what they're coming at you with, and they're just going to overpower you. And then here comes this guy who can overpower you, but he's also going to finesse you and get you off balance and move the ball around. So yeah, I mean it's obviously a really good rotation.
Yeah, it's good when Glasnow gets lost in terms of like notoriety, right? Like Glasnow, it's literally some of the best stuff in the entire game. Might not be the highest velocity of all the game, but I think his true pitch characteristics, like the way that ball moves in the top of the zone and the slot that is coming out and how big he is, like that, I think he's somehow underrated.
Right. He's coming at you with 2 pitches. Like, I'm going to beat you. You know what's coming. I'm going to beat you with these 2 pitches.
Right.
And he's super successful doing it,
And you get to those 4, and then maybe the most electric guy we've seen in the postseason, which is Roki Sasaki. I wanted to ask you about him specifically because you played in Japan.
Yeah.
You played in the pen starting. This is a young player with an injury going across the sea, making this transition at the highest time of the season.
Yeah.
I mean, how is he able to do that? Because to me, I wrote him off when he was getting hurt. I'm like, he's a young player. He's going to have to, he's done. He's not going to be a factor here. And now he's one of the biggest factors. How's he doing it?
Yeah, I think it shows to his ability to make adjustments, right? I mean, he's shown that he did that in Japan, right? He struggled his first year throwing strikes in Japan, and then the next year came, learned what the strike zone was, where it was, and started attacking it and challenging guys. And you saw a little bit this year when he first got called up, struggling throwing strikes, and then he was in the minor leagues a little bit, and then he came back up and starting to get a little bit more familiar, a little more comfortable, and is starting to attack guys. And now he's pitching, he's closing games for him and pitching out of the pen in 8th, 9th inning. Multiple high leverage innings because he has the workload to give you multiple innings. It shows that this guy can be a dude. I mean, I think he will be a dude, and he's another guy with electric stuff. That splitter is cheat code. Yeah.
And to be able to do it they're asking you to basically come into the highest leverage situations. Right. And you're a traditional starter.
Not easy to do.
To come in and be that dominant out of the pen in this new specialized role as a rookie, I think bodes really well for what he's going to do.
Maybe the move has helped him like it's helped me, right? And kind of hopefully it illuminates that path for like, all right, I don't have the luxury to not attack guys. Right. I don't have the 100 pitches.
Right.
And you see that with a lot of they do that with a lot of young pitchers, right? Like, at least, especially back in the day, and then they're starting to do it again, where they'll call up the young prospect and they'll put him in the pen. Maybe he starts off as a long reliever, and then he'll throw a couple high leverage innings, whether they're winning or not, right? Because it can still be a high leverage inning if you're down 1, right? Sure. You can still feel that pressure, and then now he knows, shit, I don't have the 100 pitches, I gotta attack the zone. So that move can help guys a lot, and I think you're seeing that here, where he's coming into the game. He knows he doesn't have the 100 pitches to find the zone. Right. He can't. He's not easing into it. He's like, I don't have a choice. I have to attack these guys, and that's setting off a light bulb and going, oh shit, it's way more fun pitching this way. So now what I was saying earlier, you might see that his learning curve, maybe cut a little bit, and next year you might see him as a starter just dominate. Like if he can take that same mentality as a starter. Now he has 100 pitches to work with. He's got a 100-mile-an-hour fastball, devastating splitter. And if he's constantly attacking the zone, it's going to be hard to cover both.
And Mizrowski's another one, right? I mean, different.
Another young pitcher come up. They have him starting right away, struggling to throw strikes. That would seem to be the attack again. The plan against them was, force him into the zone. Right. And then that 100 doesn't look as hard anymore. Now I can time it if I'm seeing more of it. And you saw that, towards the end of the season, he was struggling throwing strikes, walking guys, giving up some runs. Moving to the playoffs, he has a few good playoff outings coming in. I don't really have a choice here. I got to challenge these guys. And he starts and he goes 5 innings, 1 run that against the Dodgers, right? Yep. So it's that mentality shift that kind of sets that light bulb off. And like, all right, how do I keep that mentality? First is recognizing it and recognizing the difference of, all right, I'm in the bullpen now. What am I thinking? What are my thoughts? What am I thinking of? What am I aware of? All right, like crap. I'm successful out of the pen because I'm attacking the zone. All right, well, let me have that same mentality as a starter.
Yeah, I think it's 100% going to help them, both of those young guys moving forward, to have gotten this kind of reliever experience in such high leverage situations. And I agree with you. I think the main takeaway will be the underscored, outlined, circled, get ahead.
Right.
Get ahead, attack, and stay ahead. Yeah. Get ahead, stay ahead. And that to me is a pretty universal pitch pitching recipe, your pitching success formula. Now, it's not always going to be successful. You know, there are certain guys where you're going to try to get ahead.
And everyone gets like, I'm guilty of it too, right? Like you get into games where you start nibbling and you're not throwing strikes. Like that's natural. Like that's going to happen. And just because I'm saying it, I have that mentality, doesn't mean I'm not. It doesn't happen to me. It still happens to me. Right? You
got to refocus back to that.
Yeah, you got to recognize it. Be aware. Like crap, we have freaking nibbling right here. Like let me go back to attacking the zone. Like you get into those slumps. It's going through it. Having the awareness to recognize when you are. That's when you can limit those slumps, those months. You know, those it's not so much a month anymore. Maybe it's just one outing. You know, maybe it's just one inning. You know, we're okay. Now I can adjust, go back to attacking the zone, and now I'm challenging guys.
And the nibble gets maximized in the postseason too, right? Like I remember we talked about
and it also sorry to cut you off, but like it nobody has this mentality. Like you don't want to nibble. Like people, no, maybe you don't feel like people like it sucks when you're throwing ball. Like you feel like you look like a pussy sometimes. Like I don't have that mentality. Like I'm fucking trying to throw strikes, but it may come off as nibbling. It's like, dude, other people, this guy's a pussy. He's not throwing any strikes. Like you don't want that label, right? So it's like it's better to get whacked in the zone than it is to walk 2 or 3 guys and then give up a cheap hit and you give up 3 runs, you know, and then like, oh, dude, if you threw strikes, like if you challenge these guys. You know, just to look at it from like a darker perspective.
Sure.
Like it's better to get whacked being aggressive in the zone than it is like nibbling, walking guys, and then giving up the one hit because you had to go back in the zone, you know?
So either way, prioritize getting in the zone no matter what.
No matter what. Like if you're going to get whacked being aggressive.
Right.
You know?
And I think that to what I was getting at is that the Dodgers make you pay for that nibble or for that nibble, right? So like sometimes you're trying to, you're not intentionally doing it
quicker, right?
I remember watching, we talked about it on the last episode. Most of the highlights will be of Ohtani's 3 home runs and all the big highlights that get the attention. But Mookie Betts, I always circle because there's a couple of bats in the Philly series. He had one at bat in a bases loaded situation against Yohan Duran, and some of like the 2-0 or the 2-1 or the 3-1 takes were like just elite level takes that most guys are swinging at that. Right. And Duran doesn't throw balls and it came up a couple times too. I think it was Abner Uribe who was like, you know, kind of like wobbling there in terms of strike throwing and another less advanced, less experienced hitter might chase that 2-1 pitch borderline, but he gets the call, you know, in that situation that was a ball that takes it to 3-1. And now the whole at bat just shifts. Right. And Uribe was going good in that instance, but these swing decisions, man, like and that's why I think the Dodgers offense is where they are because they stack 1 through 9 and even 10, 11, 12, whoever's coming into the game, they also make those good decisions. Right. And that can just like, even with good pitching and even with a really good bullpen, which Milwaukee was, those kinds of things can just wear you down. And I think it's part of why they are where they are and why they've had such decisive victories against very, very good teams at each step of this playoff run. And people are going to get sick of me saying the word swing decisions, but I think it's at the core of what they're doing. It's one of those peripherals that teams look at, you know, and if you're making good swing decisions over the course of the time, it's going to even out. And then that's one of those stats that it shows in the playoffs too, where, you know, you're not going to be chasing, you're not going to be, you know, swinging your way into outs, right? You're going to be making good decisions to help you succeed.
Adrian, I want to ask you this because you were there. Is this Dodgers lineup for what you just described, just taking deep water every single at bat, 1 through 9, and then guys on the bench? Is this the best since that Red Sox team, your second championship team? Because that was when you were describing that, that's what came to my mind, that particular lineup and how every at bat was a nightmare for those pitchers. Is this the best lineup you've seen in that regard since that one? Yeah, I think and I'm biased, but like I think this is even better, right? Because you have even more. It's kind of like an even more experienced Mookie Betts, although in that 2018 run, he was a league MVP. He was playing at a bananas level. But like having guys like Shohei, Ohtani, and then other guys that have shown up, like Tommy Edman is like you don't want to see that guy in a postseason matchup, especially because it's a switch hit. So he's on the favorable side of the split no matter what. Kike all of a sudden becomes somebody completely different. He's also part of that run. But I think this is one of the better constructed teams in a long time. I don't want to say in history because I don't have the context of the teams in the 70s, 60s, whatever. But this feels the way that they've
gone through each of these series, and they could hit a buzzsaw here in the next round in the World Series, but it feels like a team that was built to go through 162, but then also built to like cut through you in the postseason in a way that feels better than really any team I've seen in this generation of baseball.
I think the Blue Jays are a pretty similar lineup. They got a lot of guys that make good swing decisions, hit for contact, and got the long ball. I think that the Blue Jays lineup, also another very dangerous lineup. The bottom of the order is playing really well right now. And then, starting things out with George, Springer's got the playoff experience.
Yeah.
He knows what it takes. His swing decisions are really good, doesn't really chase a whole lot. And when he does swing, it seems to be for a lot of damage. And you got Vlad, same thing. Doesn't chase a whole lot. You throw in the zone, he punishes it. So they got, Kirk, same way. He chases a little bit more, but he's a swinger, but I mean, his hand-eye coordination, he doesn't.
But not a misser.
Not a misser, right.
Right.
He may chase you off the plate, but he's getting a piece of it.
Right.
So
he's not punching.
He doesn't punch a lot. No, he makes a lot of contact and hard contact too. Jimenez is, bottom of the order guy that's really stepped up these playoffs, playing really well. A couple big home runs for him.
Ernie Clement showing up in the postseason, high contact guy. Varsho, another really good hitter, made some when he was with a completely different hitter from when he was with the Diamondbacks to now, way more balanced. Not a lot of holes, covers a lot, and he's doing it for him in the playoffs. Also plays great center field. That's a really good ball club. I think that lineup really close to what the Dodgers are putting out there in terms of hitting. Yeah, underrated offensive ball club. Even though you don't talk about them as much, but like.
And they don't even have Bo Bichette, right? Like he's not even in the lineup right now.
Which is that I could see how that would be an even more devastating lineup with him in it.
Right.
And I'm glad we're talking about Vlad Guerrero Jr. because sometimes it's easy to like lose track of the team that's in Canada, right? Or it's in the Northeast and just doesn't get the same hype. But this, I think we talked about him in the last episode. This guy has really cemented himself, especially with this postseason run. I think obviously he got paid at a level. He's not lost in this game. He's not underrated in that sense because the dollars show that he's rated pretty good. But I think this postseason run has changed his legacy, let's say, right? Like has changed how he's viewed because this has been a pretty, what is it? I think he's got 6 homers and 7 strikeouts or something like that. And all the homers seem to be decisive ones because so many of these games are big, they're not like, they're close games, right? And every at bat matters. But I think he's really established himself in terms of like just 26 years old. We think this guy's a lot older than he is because he got there so quickly. But I mean, you just look at Junior. You could pull this. You can go to screen 4 there because this is just ridiculous, right? Like,
he's hitting the ball pretty hard.
Yeah, not only hitting the ball pretty hard, but not chasing, barely whiffing, not striking out, and getting on base at a really high clip. So like, this tells me that. It's all the factors are there for you to have success, but then another thing is to have that success and be this kind of force, have this kind of aura in the postseason, especially. And I was counting them out a little bit because I thought Seattle had gotten out to.
They got hot, right? They got pretty hot, and they were that team that maybe they
had that mojo. They
had that
mojo
going a little bit, and it's hard to win at Toronto. I mean, it's
that place is electric.
Really tough place to play.
I'll never forget. We played a game there. This might have been like 2017. We played on Canada Day.
Yeah.
And they were wearing those red uniforms. Yeah. And I remember Justin Smoke hit a home run off Rick Porcello, and it was the loudest. I was in the replay booth, which is under the stadium, and I couldn't believe that
place gets really loud.
Together.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Hard to play there. Yeah,
hard. Not an easy place to play. Yeah. And they know how to hit there. Yeah. Like their offense seems to take off when they're at home there. So I'm really excited for this Game 7 because I think it's going to be one of the. Like it's interesting. The one series goes pretty decisively in one direction, despite the Brewers having the best regular season record in the big leagues on the other side of it. And then the series that I thought Toronto might run away with that series at the beginning, and they get down in this hole, and now it looks
like they've got some life back. And
just when you think how things are going in baseball, it kind of goes in a different direction.
That's beautiful. That's what's nice about
it. Agreed. Except for the Dodgers. You kind of thought it was going to go their direction.
What's amazing to me as a fan, it's just like, man, there's so many dudes in this league. And I'm using the example of Barger for Toronto, a guy that I really had not given a lot of thought to him. The guy's tools are ridiculous. Yeah. And it's like, there's a guy the average fan has never heard of until recently. And like his tools, you look at it, you're like, man, this dude can do it all.
Yeah. Yeah. He's a good ball player. could swing it.
That's a violent swing.
Yeah.
He does not get cheated.
No.
But also, you can have that violence if you make good swing decisions, right? Like you can let it eat.
Springer swings out of his shoes every time. But
there you go. I think he's like 5th all time in total postseason home runs, which is crazy. Like, think about how many postseason at bats you have to.
He might be closer.
Maybe even 4th.
Yeah, it might be close. I think he's chasing the top there.
But think about how many playoff at bats you have to have, playoff chances you have to be able to hit 20+ homers in the postseason. That's
right.
But
hit some in 2017, so you don't have to get into it. But
tied for 4th.
4th.
Tied for 4th.
Yep.
So yeah, I think it's going to be. I don't know. I'd be happy with either outcome. I'd like to see the Mariners in it. I'd like to see the Blue Jays in it. It feels like zooming out all the way. It feels like baseball is having a moment right now in terms of like obviously the Ohtani stuff, which we mentioned Ohtani's name, right? But like he can always have his own little segment here. But him doing what he's doing, literally highest ratings that we've ever had in postseason baseball, I think. And then him also having the best postseason game in history. Right. Like I think we should talk about the analogy that we were talking about before the game. So you said,
it's just so on a group chat. My family someone sent out a tweet. It said, "Can someone explain what Shohei Ohtani did in golf terms?" And then someone replied, like hitting a 63 at Oakmont, playing 12 holes righty and 6 holes lefty. That's pretty accurate, right? Of course, that absolutely, undressed the best golfers in the world this year at the U.S. Open. I think it was. Just made them look all like casual golf players. And what Ohtani did in relation to that would be to shoot 20 shots better than everyone and playing righty and lefty, essentially. Right. Yeah, it's crazy what he's doing. Best to ever do it, probably. Right?
Let me ask you a question for you specifically, because I always hear people say he's the most talented player ever. And yes, obviously the guy's a freak, but like, I think they do a little disservice to his routine and his preparation and all that off the field stuff. You are someone who, I can tell from talking to you, take that stuff probably more serious than most. You think about it a lot. Just watching him when he's not on the field, the preparation stuff to do what he does. Right. What do someone like you take from his routine and his preparation to get ready to play?
Yeah. Going back to choices, he doesn't really have a choice, right? To be that elite at pitching and hitting, you have to take care of your body. You don't really have another choice. From what I've heard, he is insane about his recovery. I mean, as soon as he steps off the field, he's focused on whatever's doing, whatever's right to get him ready for the next day, essentially, because he's got to hit. And then the next day, the next few days after that, because he's got to pitch. So, that is different from me because what I'm doing is different. So, there's a lot. I mean, at this level, everyone's really good at, taking care of themselves and preparing, doing that's what they have to do. That's like the baseline. Right. And then, and then each player, maybe does their version, maybe they're the best at what they do in their own version, right? Like if he's the 8th inning guy or 9th inning guy or longer, everyone can be the best at one thing because there's so many different ways to impact the game. And for me, it's being able to jump back and forth from the rotation to the bullpen, and for him it's at a much higher level of starting and playing every day. But a lot of players have their different techniques and can be the best at how they prepare themselves for the next game.
So we've talked about Yamamoto, we've talked about Sasaki, we've talked about Ohtani. Obviously, there's an obvious through line there in terms of Japanese players, and we've talked about this a lot before, that Japanese baseball is here to stay. But it feels like, as it relates to the game, the preparation stuff, it feels like there's rightfully now a deeper appreciation for how baseball over there and guys over there have looked at their body and thought about mobility and have thought about these things. Because if you look at both those guys' routines, for example, they're a little bit different than the traditional stuff. They seem to be a little more mobility focused, right? Not as much like strength. It's not that they're not strong and explosive, because they are. You look at Ohtani up there; he's not strong at all.
I think
right?
He's adapted to more of a American style.
In what sense? Of
like weight training.
Yep.
Where you look at Yamamoto, who looks like he's probably stayed more of the mobility stuff. But a lot of guys like Darvish, adopted the more American style. Even when he was over there in Japan, he would, work out, even though that's not what, that wasn't a focus for them back in the day, but he knew he wanted to play in this league. So he started training himself and doing more of an American style off season, working out throughout the season. So there are some guys that do both, but yeah, Japanese is more of like a mobility, stretching, running. They run like crazy over there. It's a crime.
A little bit of a shock when you got there.
It's a crime. They run like hell.
So it's interesting because it feels like what we're seeing is that, and especially with Ohtani, it's like where both cultures are borrowing like the best portions of their preparation stuff, whether it be maybe on the American side, the strength and explosion side, and maybe on the Japanese side, more of the mobility based, the mechanical fluidity, javelin throwing based stuff. And it feels like that's why I think baseball's at such a cool moment, because it's truly globalized in a way that I think it's never been this globalized before, especially having superstars come from over there. Also it makes that easier, right? It makes that more viable. And I think we're going to see a lot of kids of a younger generation and younger baseball players benefiting from the benefits of both those kind of philosophies of how to look at things. I think today's baseball is going to influence a lot of like this next generation that's going to adapt, both of those things.
Yeah, look, it's popularity speaking for itself, just like the social media clips. It's just like, seems like I can tell you Belen, where we all went, Belen Jesuit, the finest institution in South Florida. I heard they're having trouble fielding a JV football team, which to me, when I was in Belen, that's crazy. Right. Everybody wanted to play football. You had your baseball players, but everybody wanted to play football that could, and there was not, already on the baseball path. So who knows what's coming down the pike? Not only more kids participating and playing and the better athletes, but like seeing things that had never been done and conceiving that it's possible, right? I mean, you're a two-way guy, you've now seen a path to do it. If you're a Cuban kid from Belen, you've seen a path to go to the major leagues. I mean, I don't know. I think this next generation is going to really blow this out the water, because that football participation thing, that's a real thing.
And meanwhile, the baseball program, I think, have like 8 teams. Because of the middle school, they're like 4 middle school teams, 4 high school teams. So I think baseball is thriving, and you just need to look at the travel ball side and to tell you the same thing. And I think that it's good. I think that we're having a really good moment in baseball, and part of the reason we started El Big League Show, because we wanted to capitalize.
Not to ruin any dreams either, but not many Cubans in the NFL. We got to stick to
well, the first pick of the draft might be a Cuban guy from Belen and Columbus, Fernando Mendoza.
Right.
So we're expanding our horizons a little bit. Don't sleep. But you're right, though. He's 6'5". There's not that many 6'5" Cubans running around.
We couldn't go the whole episode without talking about Belen, especially because, Nick, you're getting inducted into the Belen Sports Hall of Fame December 12th.
December 12th. Yeah.
That's
pretty cool.
It is pretty cool.
Yeah. I'm honored. Pretty sweet.
I'm really excited to not only be there for that, but I think it's a really good honor, and to say it's well deserved would be putting it lightly.
It's special, right? Because growing up, and then once you get into Belen, it's like play baseball for Belen was like the biggest thing to us growing up, and now to be in the Hall of Fame, pretty wild. Didn't think that was gonna happen.
Well deserved. well deserved. And as you push into extending your major league career here too, so are you excited about this next phase, whatever it brings?
Whatever it brings me, man. Still have the passion and fire to win, and so gonna ride that flame and see where it takes me. It's been a wild ride, right? Be 35 now, be 36. So,
but you're having your best,
getting long in the tooth, as they say. But I feel like I'm playing my best ball, and I feel great, and I'm gonna keep riding that. See where it takes me.
Yeah, I was saying it earlier before in the show. I think you're gonna Rich Hill the shit out of it. Where you're gonna be pitching deep into your. Well,
I hope so. Rich is a beautiful human.
Yeah, he is. And I think it's a lot. There's obviously a lot of physical talent and a lot of talent between the ears, and a lot of.
Thanks,
I don't think anybody competes the way you do as well. I'm sure there are guys that will say that they do, but there's an intensity to the way you treat competition, and I think you look at it as very. When you compete in everything you do, you and I talk about your preparation, like how you haven't missed a day of arm care, in your entire career.
Yeah.
And I think that those things like that allow you and put you in a position to be in the position that you're in, and for you to be experiencing this level of success, like let's call it deeper into your 30s. But I don't think your 35 is the average 35 because of the way you've done taking care of your arm.
Teams see it that way. Yeah.
And I think that they do. And I think that there are now, whether it be Charlie Morton, whether it be Max Scherzer, whether it be Rich Hills, there are guys, we were talking about Robertson, David Robertson.
David.
Yeah. Doing having sustained success into these parts of your career. And I think that you're in line to be doing exactly that. So I'm excited for you and for whatever comes here, man. And I'm just so happy that we're able to have this conversation. I think I'm going to hold you to having one more so we can get into the story,
can talk
because I think that as compelling as what you're doing in the big leagues is now, and I think it really is, the story and the progression of getting into here and to be standing right here is it's really, to me, unique and
mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Even for myself. It's been a wild ride.
I'm going to hold you to coming back so we can tell that story. But Dan, you got anything else?
No, man, just grateful, man. This is awesome.
Yeah.
This is awesome. Learn a lot.
Yeah. All right. You come back anytime, man.
Yeah. Thanks, brother. Love you guys.
Likewise. Please make sure to like, subscribe. It really helps us out. And it really, we're really seeing a lot of good trend lines in terms of how the show is growing. Not only in terms of total volume of the people watching, to which we all extremely appreciate, but also, man, the feedback that I get, from people in the game, from people across the game about the sort of the nuanced way in which we're talking about the game, and let's call it advanced, let's call it polished or whatever. But I think it's clear to me that there's a thirst to talk about the game beyond just superficial, surface level statistics and stuff like that. So I feel, I just want to say thank you. I feel really grateful about everybody who watches, especially those who watch on a weekly basis. At first I didn't know how long we were going to end up doing this. And here we are going through we're in the postseason about to talk about the World Series, and to have people like yourself talk about it with, I'm just really grateful. So
happy to do it, man.
Yeah, man.
See you next week. We'll talk World Series. Like and subscribe. He's like a cool dude. Yeah, he's like a Kirk Cousins kind of dude. Like, bro, sick. It's changing. Sheesh. From Miami, that Belen. You know who started over in that quarterback was